Before we dive into this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel. There's a lot more coming your way. And tell me in the comments, where are you listening from? I want to know how far this story has reached. No more waiting. Let's get into the video.
The Virex 9 orbital station pulsed like a beating heart in the cold silence of space, its corridors teeming with interspecies commerce, artificial aromas, and the steady hum of propulsion generators buried deep within its belly. Here, in the chaotic sprawl of Sector 7's trade district, where neon lights flickered above rusted vendor stalls and security drones floated like silent judges, Theo Rourke ran for his life. His boots slammed against the metal flooring, echoing across the walkway. He dodged between a pair of Drellin spice merchants arguing in shrieks, nearly toppling a tower of pickled chitin jars. Behind him, two shapes moved with relentless intent. Tall, thin, and fluid in motion, the Erraki debt hunters stalked him through the crowd with unblinking focus. One shimmered with shifting hues of chrome and blue, the other blood red and matte as dried war paint. Their eyes, clustered orbs of glimmering onyx, betrayed no emotion, just calculation. Theo ducked into an alley flanked by closed blast doors and service pipes. His breath came in ragged gasps, throat burning. The Erraki had traced him again, third time this cycle. They didn't speak. They didn't warn. Erraki collection protocol was simple: recover the debt or eliminate the debtor. And Theo Rourke owed them 80,000 credits. "I just need a hole," he muttered under his breath, checking the datapad strapped to his wrist. The screen cracked and flickering. A place no one would look for a human, not even by accident. The hole he had in mind wasn't a place most dared to enter. The access hatch ahead bore a rusted warning in Tharnis glyphs. Sharp-angled, aggressive shapes etched deep into the steel. Military restricted zone. Theo gritted his teeth, yanked open the panel with a wrench from his belt, and slipped into the dark. The narrow maintenance shaft was suffocating, hot and lined with fiber optic veins that pulsed faintly as he crawled. Somewhere behind him, the Erraki paused. He could almost hear them thinking. Theo's shoulder brushed something metallic, an access ladder. He descended blindly into darkness, dropped onto a grate, and stumbled into a room filled with humming consoles and thick coils of energy cable. Then, he heard it. Voices. Female. Strong. Speaking in clipped tones that resonated with command. Panic surged. He scanned the room and saw them approaching through a wide corridor. Tall silhouettes, armored, disciplined. He didn't hesitate. To his left was a massive industrial drum filled with combat uniforms, still damp from sanitization, steam rising in ghostly wisps. Theo climbed in, pulling the lid closed just as the doors hissed open, wrapped in the scent of sweat, ozone, and something alien. Metallic, floral, primal. He tried not to breathe, tried not to exist. Outside, the voices grew closer. Training cycle complete. Prepare for the next round. Theo closed his eyes. He was deep in restricted Tharnis territory now. If the Erraki didn't kill him, the warriors of this place just might. And yet, in the suffocating dark, surrounded by strange warmth and danger, he felt something new blooming in his chest. Hope. Theo held his breath as the heavy footsteps drew near, each one echoing like a drumbeat against the steel floors of the restricted zone. The inside of the laundry drum was a humid cocoon of sweat-soaked fabric and alien pheromones. The damp cloth stuck to his face, clinging to his skin like living things. Every breath brought in the aroma of heat, metal, and something floral yet biting, like iron flowers blooming in a war zone. Outside, the conversation continued. Their voices were clear now. Female. Commanding. One was sharp and clipped, issuing orders. Another responded with a snort, laced with impatience. The third voice was low and deliberate, calm as a blade sheathed just before a strike. Theo couldn't see them, but he imagined their forms. He'd heard whispers in the lower levels of Virex 9 about the Tharnis warriors who trained here. The Zhurai. Ghosts in armor. Combatants bred and conditioned for high-orbit warfare, brutal countermeasures, and zero-G dueling. The stories called them War Queens and Sisters of Wrath. The hiss of a hydraulic door, the hum of magnetic locks disengaging. They were inside the chamber now. A brief silence, then, "What is this?" A pause. Then, fabric rustled. Someone used the sanitation drum without authorization. Theo's stomach sank. No, another voice corrected. Someone is inside it. The lid ripped open in a sudden burst of light and steam. Theo blinked up, caught in a snapshot of stillness. 3 warriors towered above him. The one in the center had gray-blue skin etched with ceremonial scars that shimmered slightly beneath her armored vest. Her amber eyes fixed on him like targeting sensors. Her stance was regal, perfectly still. She needed no motion to convey power. To her left stood a slightly taller figure with sharper features and wild dark hair tied back in a series of aggressive braids. Her expression was thunderclouds, coiled rage, barely restrained. The third woman was leaner, quieter, holding a data tablet in one hand, eyes narrowed with cold curiosity. She didn't flinch. She calculated. Theo raised his hands instinctively. Look, I know how this looks, but I swear, you dare hide among our combat vestments, the leader said. Her voice was a storm wrapped in velvet. Theo swallowed hard. Technically, I'm trespassing. Desperately, but not maliciously. The one with the braids stepped forward. I say we break one of his arms, then ask questions. Enough, Vera, said the leader, still watching Theo with that unreadable gaze. He's a human, and clearly, he's running from something. Theo's breath caught. She was giving him a chance. I didn't come here to spy, he said quickly. I was being hunted. I just needed to disappear. This was the only door that opened. The quiet one, Senya, spoke at last. He tells the truth. His body is in flight mode, heart rate erratic. He's injured. The leader tilted her head. You know what this place is, human? He nodded slowly, enough to regret entering it. Her eyes burned into him, but something softened. Curiosity, perhaps, or the faintest spark of interest. Then perhaps, she said, we'll let you explain your presence before we decide what part of you to remove. Theo exhaled. Not dead yet. The chamber into which Theo was marched felt more like a cathedral than a training hall. Its ceiling stretched impossibly high, held aloft by curved beams forged from black titanium and engraved with the calligraphic war script of the Tharnas. Around the perimeter, energy weapons and bladed relics were displayed in shimmering stasis fields, each humming with a quiet menace. The floor beneath his boots was a smooth obsidian alloy, scuffed and cracked from countless drills and combat simulations. It smelled of ozone, old sweat, and scorched metal. Theo stood in the center of the room, still flanked by the 3 warriors who had discovered him. His wrists were not bound, but the atmosphere made movement feel impossible. Every breath echoed. Every heartbeat sounded like a drum of judgment. The central figure stepped forward and turned to face him fully. I am General Kalen of the Zhurai. You trespassed in a sovereign military enclave. Explain yourself, human. Kalen. Now he had a name to go with the commanding presence. Her expression was unreadable, neither hostile nor forgiving. Her posture was that of a statue carved from battle itself. Theo cleared his throat. I'm Theo Rourke, ex-engineer, ex-citizen of Virex 9, technically, and currently very much wanted by some very serious people. The one called Vera snorted, pacing around him like a predator testing a new kind of prey. Her braided hair bounced with each step, and her heavy boots struck the floor with purpose. Running from debts, human, or did you simply insult the wrong syndicate? 80,000 credits, Theo admitted, raising his hands. I made some enemies in the data mining sector. The kind of enemies who send bounty hunters with plasma sabers and no sense of humor. Senya, the silent one with the eyes like twin suns about to go supernova, stepped closer. And you thought the best place to hide was among the war sisters of Tharnas. Theo shrugged. No offense, but I was hoping for a quiet storage closet, not a military sanctum filled with people who could snap my spine just by glaring. Kalen crossed her arms, considering him. You're either very foolish or very desperate. Both, he replied, trying not to look at the massive blade hanging from the ceiling by a single strand of quantum wire. Silence fell. Then Kalen turned to the others. Let him speak. All of it. And so Theo did. He told them about the job gone wrong. The mining rig he'd modified for illegal data extraction. The moment he realized the Erraki syndicate was laundering code through his operation. The moment he'd tried to vanish, knowing it was only a matter of time before they hunted him. And now, he said, breathless, I'm here, in front of 3 warriors who could tear me in half. But, for what it's worth, I didn't mean to end up here. I just didn't want to die in the gutter. Kalen regarded him with something like curiosity now. Vera looked unconvinced. Senya, unreadable. Your survival instinct is strong, Kalen said. That, at least, is a start. Theo blinked. A start? To what? The 3 exchanged a glance. Something passed between them. Silent. Swift. Perhaps, Kalen said at last, there is a use for a man who knows how to disappear. Theo sat on the edge of a reinforced bench in a smaller chamber now, deeper within the training complex. The overhead lights were dimmed, casting the space in warm amber hues that shimmered against the curved alloy walls. It was quieter here, more personal, but the tension hadn't faded. If anything, it had grown more precise, like the edge of a blade drawn slowly across stone. Kalen stood across from him, her arms folded behind her back in perfect military alignment. Vera leaned against the far wall, her eyes never leaving Theo. Senya sat on a stool, reading through a holographic data display that Theo suspected was somehow about him. You're a systems engineer, Kalen said. It wasn't a question. I was, Theo replied, cautious. Mostly industrial operations, security layers, adaptive firmware for mining drones. I didn't build weapons, if that's what you're worried about. We're not worried, Vera muttered. Just deciding whether you're more useful breathing or not. Theo exhaled slowly. I appreciate the honesty. Kalen circled the room once before stopping near him. We have a situation, Rourke. One that requires someone with your particular talents. Theo raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. There's another unit stationed on this level, a rival team of Kaleth operatives, genetically spliced hybrids trained by off-world militaries. They're violating combat codes, using black market enhancers and unauthorized tech to gain the upper hand in arena simulations. Senya flicked a switch on her display, revealing distorted blueprints and biological scans. Our attempts to expose them have failed. They hide their upgrades behind cloaked bioarchitecture. We need someone who can slip inside, access their systems, and retrieve proof. Theo leaned forward. Curiosity piqued. You want me to be your mole? Kalen nodded once. You'll pose as a technician, an optimization engineer on loan from the core systems. Their command hierarchy won't question it. They pride themselves on their superiority. It makes them blind. Theo frowned. What's in it for me? Besides a front row seat to a very dangerous game. Kalen's voice dropped lower. Protection. From the Erraki. From every bounty system they've triggered. Our diplomatic leverage allows us to shield you, so long as you remain under our care. Vera stepped forward now, arms crossed, her glare razor sharp. This isn't mercy. You betray us, and I'll put your skull on a spike. Noted, Theo said, raising his hands. Kalen didn't smile, but there was a weight in her gaze that felt steadier than any threat. We don't trust easily, Rourke, but we believe in utility. You prove your worth. You earn your place. Theo looked between them. Kalen's unwavering focus, Vera's stormy suspicion, Senya's cold assessment. Part of him wanted to laugh at how insane this was. Another part, the part that had kept him alive through near-death scrapes and bad decisions, recognized the moment for what it was. A shift, a possibility. All right, he said, pushing himself to his feet. I'll do it. But if this goes sideways, Kalen cut in, voice calm, then you die among warriors, not cowards. And strangely, that made all the difference. The identity badge clicked softly into place on Theo's borrowed uniform. T. Rourke, Optimization Division. The name was real, but everything else was fabricated. His rank, his assignment order, even his retinal pattern had been subtly altered by Senya's covert tech. The uniform was tight in places and smelled faintly of ozone and plastic composite, but it would pass inspection. More importantly, he now had full access clearance to the Kaleth compound. Theo stood in front of the mirror in the debriefing suite, adjusting his collar. The face staring back at him looked composed, but his pulse told another story. He wasn't a spy. He was a survivor. There was a difference. You're not going in as a warrior, Kalen had told him. You're going in as a whisper. The Kaleth training zone was stark and militaristic, built into the station's lower armature. Steel gray walls gleamed under sharp LED strips, and the sound of marching drills echoed endlessly down the corridors. The Caliph themselves were taller than most humanoids, part synthetic, part organic, with slitted eyes and skin marked by biosutures that pulsed with faint, amber light. They moved like weapons, always on edge, always calculating. Theo had to play it cool. He walked with purpose, checked his wrist console like he belonged, and asked technical questions with just the right amount of disdain to be accepted. Caliph officers sneered at incompetence, but they ignored efficient tools. The deeper he went, the more unsettling it became. Their training wasn't just aggressive, it was brutal. He watched a drone exercise where a Caliph operative shattered a practice android in under 4 seconds, then proceeded to disable 2 of his squad mates when they got too close. There were no reprimands, only data logs and recalibration notices. Theo accessed the maintenance hub by using a redirected passcode Kalen had acquired through back channels. Inside, he found what he was looking for, a secondary server console hidden behind a false panel. It pulsed with neural link data, real-time biological feedback from every Caliph in the unit. Theo's fingers danced over the input panel. The files were heavily encrypted, too complex to copy now, but he didn't need to download them. He just needed to flag the presence of illegal enhancement signatures. What he found made his blood chill. The Caliph weren't just enhanced, they were being used. Their data was being fed into a black-channel military network Theo didn't recognize. A ghost command, one that linked directly to off-station testing hubs. "This isn't training," Theo muttered. "It's field testing." His wrist pad blinked, a silent alert from Senya. Extraction team inbound. They'd noticed something. He had 90 seconds. Theo sealed the files behind a fractal-coded logic loop and slipped out through the environmental shaft, barely dodging a patrol unit. He hit the deck hard on the other side, shoulders screaming with pain. Back at the Zhurai enclave, Vera caught him as he stumbled in, blood trailing down his arm. "You look like hell." "I found it," he panted. "They're not preparing for war. They're perfecting it." Senya scanned the data and confirmed it silently. Kalen stepped forward, eyes dark with understanding. "They've crossed a line." Theo nodded, still reeling. "And now I'm the one holding the match." The lights above the Zhurai infirmary were soft, tinted amber, designed not to agitate a warrior's nervous system. Theo lay on a biofoam cot, stripped to the waist, his shoulder wrapped in a glimmering mesh that pulsed faintly with healing enzymes. The pain had dulled, replaced by a steady hum in his nerves, a reminder that he was still alive. For now. Kalen stood at the foot of the cot, arms crossed, her gaze fixed on the data Senya had extracted from Theo's wrist pad. "You're certain?" she asked, though her voice lacked doubt. Senya nodded. "Caliph operatives are running live neural feedback loops during simulations. Their implants are transmitting outside the station. Classified frequencies tied to Project Orias." Theo propped himself up with a wince. "They're turning combat zones into laboratories, using the arena to test new tech, biosuppressants, hyperstim mods, controlled rage triggers. This isn't about winning, it's about transformation." Vera paced nearby, her fists clenched. "And the council knows? They know enough to stay blind." Kalen muttered. A heavy silence settled over the room, the kind of silence that marked a crossroads. Kalen finally spoke again, her voice steel. "We expose this, and the entire arena system could collapse. Every house of honor, every chain of command, all of it dragged through the void." Theo looked up at her. "And if you don't?" Kalen's eyes met his. "Then the Caliph become the future of war." It hit him then. This wasn't just about his survival anymore. He wasn't the mouse scurrying through walls. He was part of something larger now, standing inside a machine far more dangerous than he'd ever known. "They called me a rat," he said quietly. "A pest, something you poison and forget about. But even a rat fights when cornered." Kalen tilted her head slightly. "You want to fight? I want to finish what I started," he replied. "I've been running my whole life. I'm tired of running." Vera snorted. "You barely lasted 1 day inside the Caliph compound." Theo met her glare without flinching, and still came back breathing. Senya looked at him, voice soft but firm. "What would you do, human?" "Challenge them. Force exposure. If they're confident in their superiority, we can use it against them. Make it public. Make it undeniable." Kalen studied him for a long moment. You think like us. Theo shrugged. You saved me. I owe you. No, Kalen said. You chose to stay. That means something. The room shifted, the air itself changing. Not just warriors and an intruder now, but a team, a formation. Kalen stepped closer, her voice lower. If we move forward, there's no safety left, no shield, not from the Kaleth, not from the station's politics. You'll be marked. Theo looked into her eyes and nodded. Then mark me. Kalen reached out, pressing her palm briefly to his shoulder, where the wound still ached. The gesture wasn't tender, it was ceremonial. Then rise, Theo Rourke, she said, her voice the tone of command. Your path has begun in fire. Let's see if you can carry it through the storm. Theo's breath left him in short, controlled bursts as he slammed his fists against the padded training wall. Sweat rolled down his temples, stung his eyes, soaked through the light combat vest Kalen had insisted he wear. Around him, the Zhurai training hall pulsed with motion. Sparring pairs struck and twisted like flowing steel. Holographic dummies sparked under live blade exercises, and commands barked in Tharnas echoed like war drums. Kalen stood beside him, arms folded, gaze like a scalpel. Again, she said. Theo groaned. I think my arms forgot they were attached to a body. Then remind them, she said. Deadpan. He turned and launched another set of strikes, this time with more control, more weight behind each blow. He wasn't a soldier, but Kalen was turning him into something close, not by force, but by presence. The way she moved, silent, deadly, deliberate, made him want to rise to her level. After the session, they sat in the meditation chamber, a circular space lined with projection glyphs that displayed starscapes in slow rotation. Theo drank from a cooled nutrient flask, eyes half-lidded, arms trembling from fatigue. Kalen sat opposite him, cross-legged in her light armor, her face relaxed, not unreadable for once. Her eyes tracked the stars above, but her mind was elsewhere. Why help me? Theo asked. At first, I was just a liability. Now I'm a project. She looked at him, her voice soft. Because you didn't break. I'm not built to break. That's a lie, she said. Everyone breaks. What matters is what they do after. Their eyes held for a moment too long. Theo felt the silence stretch and wrap around them like the station's gravity. Kalen's gaze wasn't evaluating now. It was searching, as if she was looking for something beyond protocol, beyond strategy. He spoke without thinking. You don't talk like a soldier. I wasn't always one. A pause. Then, she added, before the Zhurai, I was conscripted, not chosen. Conditioned. Theo leaned closer, voice low. And now, Kalen didn't look away. Now I choose who I stand beside. The weight of that sentence settled between them, heavy and electric. But before either could speak again, the door opened. Vera stood in the threshold, arms crossed. This bonding silence getting anyone killed yet. Kalen stood slowly, the moment fading. Session's over. Vera stepped inside as Kalen exited. Her eyes locked onto Theo's. She's disciplined. You're not. That makes this dangerous. Theo blinked. What is this exactly? Vera moved close, too close, her tone razor sharp. The look in your eyes, the hesitation in hers. You don't understand what a bond like that does to a unit. Theo didn't back down. Maybe I don't, but I've seen what pretending not to care leads to. And I'm done pretending. Vera studied him for a heartbeat, then nodded slowly. Then be ready to bleed for it. As she turned to leave, Senya's voice echoed from a hidden corner. He already is. Theo exhaled, pulse racing, heart heavier than before. In this place of code and steel, where bonds were forged in fire, something far more fragile had begun to take shape, and fragile things had a tendency to break. The main council chamber of Virex 9 had been repurposed as a broadcast arena, its domed ceiling now a projection lattice, displaying rotating banners of competing warrior houses and combat units. Thousands of spectators filled the observation tiers, from ranking officers to off-world dignitaries and the ever-hungry eyes of the public. Drones hovered above, ready to stream every moment in high definition to a dozen systems. The arena of equilibrium was set, and Theo Rourke stood at its center. His new armor, a hybrid between Zhurai light plate and stealth-linked synthetic mesh, glinted with inlaid sigils that denoted him, officially, as a combat tactician. Unofficially, he was bait, leverage, and symbol all in one. Kaelin stepped up beside him, her helmet clipped to her side, silver-gray skin catching the arena lights. "Are you ready?" "No," Theo muttered, eyes scanning the towering gates at the far end where the Kaleth were waiting, their forms barely visible through the reinforced mist veil. "But I'm standing anyway." Kaelin offered a rare, sharp nod. "That's enough." The plan was insanity. Theo's idea, driven more by desperation than strategy. Public challenge. Live scan. No way for the Kaleth to hide their illegal enhancements. If the crowd saw the truth, if the council officials were forced to confront it, the Kaleth would be discredited. Project Arias would be burned down under the weight of its own exposure. But if they lost, Theo would be handed over to the Erraki by clause of wagered combat. Vera had nearly broken his jaw when she found out the terms. "Welcome to the first trial of Proven Flame," boomed the voice of the arena announcer. An artificially enhanced synth projected across every speaker. "Today, the House of Zhurai meets the elite warriors of the Kaleth Combine in a challenge of honor, blood, and truth." The roar of the crowd threatened to drown out thought. Theo stood beside Kaelin, Vera, and Senya in the starting circle. He looked at each of them, the jagged fury in Vera's jaw, the stillness in Senya's eyes, the calm fire in Kaelin's stance, and felt like he was standing among war gods. "Remember," Kaelin said, "you aren't here to fight them. Just stay alive long enough for the scanners to do their work." "I'll try not to die heroically," Theo replied. The signal blared. The gates opened. The Kaleth charged. They moved like a single, monstrous organism, 6 figures enhanced beyond natural motion, their weapons humming with illegal energy distortions. But Kaelin met them like a crashing tide. Vera swept in behind her, rage unleashed. Senya flickered through the battle like a shadow with a blade, and Theo ran, darting to the central pillar where the scan beacons pulsed, syncing with the Kaleth's biological signals. He triggered the override. Above them, the arena lattice went white. Dozens of images flooded the projection sky: neural spike maps, synthetic adrenal markers, implant schematics, data traces leading to black site addresses. A shocked gasp rolled through the crowd. Kaelin's voice cut through the chaos. "The Kaleth have been corrupted. Witness it." The Kaleth hesitated, stumbling. Their composure cracked, but from the upper deck, Theo saw something worse. Dark-clad figures entering the VIP ring. The Erraki. They'd come to collect. Kaelin met Theo's gaze. "Hold the ground," she said. "We're not done." And in that moment, the arena became more than a challenge. It became war. The arena of equilibrium was in chaos. The crowd, thousands of voices from a dozen species, had gone from cheering to stunned silence to panicked murmurs. Overhead, the lattice of projection screens continued displaying the irrefutable truth. The Kaleth were enhanced with black market biosystems, neural regulators, and prototype combat implants that violated every interstellar warfare accord. Their biological scans glowed red, blinking with warnings and error codes. But it wasn't over. The Erraki had arrived. Dark as vacuum and twice as cold, the Syndicate's enforcers moved through the upper galleries like executioners in a temple. Each wore null armor, featureless and lightless, with long-barreled sonic disruptors holstered at their hips. They didn't move fast. There was no need. Power came with inevitability. They believed no one would stop them. Theo watched them descend toward the combat platform from behind the energy walls that separated the teams from the spectators. He felt it in his gut. The station's authorities wouldn't intervene. Not here. Not against the Erraki. Not when they could pretend it was a matter of debt enforcement. His debt. Theo took a step forward, instinct screaming at him to run. Again. Hide. Survive. But something inside him no longer responded to fear the way it used to. Kaelin stood beside him, blood streaking her forearm from a gash she'd ignored. Her blade was still drawn, her armor cracked at the shoulder. She didn't look at him. She looked at the approaching threat. "They come for you," she said, "but they will go through us." "Kaelin," Theo whispered, "you don't have to." "I do." Senya materialized at Theo's other side, voice calm and quiet. "The moment you became one of us, your enemies became ours." Vera stepped into place, her breathing ragged, but her posture pure fire. And I've been waiting all day to break someone's ribs. Looks like I'll get my chance after all. The Erraki enforcers stepped onto the arena floor. The projection lattice dimmed. Spotlights locked onto the confrontation. Kaylin raised her voice, her tone iron. This human is under Zhurai protection. Leave now. One of the enforcers stepped forward. He didn't speak. He raised a hand, and a pulse of energy rippled outward. A suppression field meant to knock Theo unconscious, but it never reached him. Kaylin deflected it with her blade, the feedback flaring in sparks. You've made your choice. The Erraki opened fire. What followed was not a duel. It was a war dance. Kaylin moved like a star born of motion, her strikes deliberate and flawless, intercepting sonic disruptor blasts and turning them into trails of light. Vera roared like a beast, leaping into the fray with twin crescent blades that clashed against armor and bone alike. Senya was silent death, cutting down flanking operatives before they could aim. Theo ducked for cover, but not to hide, to reach the tactical terminal. If he could amplify the scan data, beam it out into the wider net, there'd be no burying this. No denials. He worked fast, overriding firewalls, rerouting power, watching red lights turn green one by one. He hit transmit. Across Virex 9 and beyond, the evidence went live. The Caliph were exposed. The Erraki were attacking a sovereign military unit, and Theo Rourke, ex-engineer, fugitive, coward, had become the axis of change. When the last enforcer fell, Kaylin turned to him, panting. Her armor was scorched, and blood stained the corner of her mouth. You did it, she said. Theo stood slowly, adrenaline still racing. No, we did. She stepped closer, lifting his chin gently with 2 fingers. Then the debt is paid. The arena lights dimmed, but the stars above Virex 9 burned brighter than ever. In the quiet that followed the storm, Virex 9 floated above the gas giant like a wounded sentinel, scorched but unbroken. The arena had been evacuated, the bodies removed, the blood already scrubbed clean by the station's automated systems. But the echo of what had happened still lingered in every corridor, every viewport, every hushed conversation across its decks. The Caliph had been disbanded, disgraced in the eyes of the Galactic Council. Project Aureus had been seized and quarantined, its directors placed under investigation. The Erraki syndicate, pushed back, wounded, and forced to reevaluate their reach. And at the center of the storm stood Theo Rourke. He stood now in the Zhurai Hall of Trials, a place once forbidden to him. Its towering archways were silent, bathed in pale blue light. Before him, Kaylin stood in ceremonial garb, minimal armor, bare arms marked with combat lines that shimmered with reactive ink. Vera and Senya flanked her, expressionless but proud. Kaylin extended her hand. The Council of Tharnis has ruled, she said, voice solemn. You acted with courage, with fire, with heart. You are no longer a ghost running between shadows, Theo Rourke. She produced a sigil etched into a curved piece of star-forged metal, the Zhurai crest. You are hereby named honorary citizen of the Tharnis Dominion and offered a place within our ranks. You may walk away if you choose, or you may remain and rise. Theo's throat tightened. The weight of it pressed into his chest, the choice he'd always wanted but never expected to be offered. He glanced around the chamber, at the banners of warriors long past, at the giants who now stood beside him. He didn't feel small anymore. He stepped forward and placed his hand over hers. I stay, he said. Kaylin nodded once, then turned to face the others. Then let it be written. Vera clapped once. About time. Senya just smiled, the barest curl of her lips. Later, as the hall emptied and the stars beyond the viewport spun slowly in their orbits, Theo and Kaylin stood alone near the observation deck. Silence wrapped around them, broken only by the low hum of distant thrusters and the quiet rhythm of shared breath. You fought for more than survival, Kaylin said. You changed things. Theo leaned on the railing, watching the vastness beyond. I used to think I was just trying to stay alive. Turns out, I was waiting for something worth dying for. Kaylin turned to face him. You found it. He looked at her. Really looked. I did. She stepped closer, the space between them narrowing until only silence remained. Then she reached out, and for the first time, not as warrior and outsider, but as equals, she touched his chest, over the heart. We are warriors of fire, she whispered. But you are our ember. Outside, the stars danced slowly around Virex 9 like ancient sentinels in motion. Inside, among the giants, a new heart had found its rhythm.